video for the Grand Library.
Okay, just so you know, the sound on my side kind of sounds weird, but so if I ask you, like, repeat, I don't know, it's kind of got an echo, but we'll go with that.
Yeah, I hear it a little bit too. I think it's the connection. A lot of people have been complaining about Google today, so they might just be off a little bit.
Okay, okay, good deal.
Okay, are you ready? You feeling confident?
I am actually. I mean, this is a good thing. I don't think this is a bad thing. I'm excited about this.
Good. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go up and you're going to hit the little green screen share button up on the left.
Okay, hang on. Okay.
And then you'll just select the window that you have your photographs in.
Select a window to share, show in the video call.
Yep. So it should bring up a bunch of little icons, and then you'll just click the one that has your photos in it.
Okay. Did I lose you?
No, you're good. We're just waiting on the screen. There you go.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so we're on your Google screen right now. Are you going to just show them from the Google group?
Say that again?
Nope, we're good. Okay.
Do you want me to start in any particular order?
Nope, you can select the order. And basically, you're just going to tell me a little bit about the photo and what went into creating it and how you feel that you did on it, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts.
Okay, awesome. Well, this was a photo shoot that I did on the beach, actually. And this model, at that time, she was, this is one of her first photo shoots that she ever did. But we had some horses, and we had different colored horses, but I noticed when we were shooting, I thought, oh my gosh, her hair looks the same color as the horse's mane. Anyway, so we were on there and we were doing different shots, and it just dawned on me that her name is Clara. I said, Clara, why don't you just lean down by the horse's mane and let's take the picture. So we did. I love the way it turned out. There's a few things that bother me a little bit about it, but I didn't really have to do much editing on this, or I didn't do much editing on this. I mean, with her hair, kind of the way it mixed in with the horse's mane. I mean, you can see that it's a horse, obviously. I went back and forth about the hair that kind of falls in front of her face a little bit. I liked it and didn't like it, and I tried to remove it, and I'm still learning my technique in Photoshop and developing my skills, but so I just ended up leaving. I did take out some of the strands that were a little bit more fine, but for the most part I left it there. And I did that particular morning here in the Houston area. We were actually about 2 hours away. It was a foggy morning, so actually what you're seeing in the background, the white, it was fog. I mean, it was literally, it wasn't, the weather didn't predict that it was going to be foggy, but it was. So I didn't change the background, I just left the fog there, and actually with the fog, you know, it makes it kind of misty, and there's a little bit of softness to that, but it kind of worked with the image. So that's what I did.
Okay. So I really love the idea of this image as well, and the model is beautiful. You have to be careful with the general rule is that the younger they are, the more you retouch the skin. Because if you have someone that's, say, in her 40s or 50s, and they have those laugh lines and you know, the wrinkles around the eyes from every time they smile and they don't quite go away, if you take all them out, it looks fake and it looks photoshopped and it doesn't look like that person. So there's always a balance between understanding which lines are expression lines and part of their character and which ones you can get rid of. So with younger girls, because you know they have that skin elasticity, you can pretty much retouch the skin completely smooth. So I would have liked to have seen you maybe touch up just a little bit under her eyes, because it looks like she didn't get enough sleep last night.
And that might be the case.
And that may be the case, but it's just, there's just a little bit of darkness and puffiness that I may not have gotten rid of it entirely, but I would have just softened it a little bit there. I do love the concept that her hair is the same color as the horses, and it actually makes her hair look really thick and full as a result because it just kind of blends in. But I feel like the photo is very weighted to the bottom because of the very blank backdrop and the fact that there isn't enough of it to be sort of empty space. It's just around her. So I'd actually be very curious to see if you took it out and swapped it in for sky in the background, what that would do for the image, just to make it a little more interesting.
Make it more interesting?
Yeah, and it may not work, but right now I feel like she starts to float the higher you get up on the image, just because there's no information and it's not enough to be empty space in the photo. I also would have had her pull that shoulder that's up by her chin. I would have had her just pull that down so that we could see the line of her neck. This is always really tough with hair. The general rule is that if you have them laying to one side, you want to have at least one line of their neck, the front or the back, exposed.
And that's an interesting point, because I know that you pointed that out in some of the other critiques. And after I submitted these photos and some of the other critiques, I went, oh, you know what? She's going to hit the neck thing on. Yeah, so I was prepared for that. I knew you were going to say that. Yeah,
well, just because, you know, everybody pays attention with women to the curves of their body, you know, so it's always from, like, directly from, like, the cleavage lines down to the hip. Like, those are the curves everybody pays attention to. But there's other lines that are very, very subtle in adding sensuality, and a lot of those come right along the line of the neck and the décolletage with the collarbone. So when you lose all of that and you think about it in terms of men. When you think of men without a neck, what do you think? You think 350-pound football player bouncer.
Right.
You know, which is not how most women want to be portrayed.
Right.
So, you know, and you can see it just with me. Like, the other thing is that it's a body language thing. So when women sit, or when anybody sits with their shoulders up, it means they're not relaxed. That's a form of tension. You know, or it's a form of extra weight, where the weight, if they're heavier, by nature they lose some of their neck because the fat comes up off of their bones more. So you're either making her fat or you're making her uncomfortable, which is usually not either thing that we're going for in a photo. So by coming up like this, even if I'm a slender person, I look really uncomfortable and I don't have it. And I lose so much weight just by dropping my shoulders.
Right. No.
You know?
I do. And honestly, when I took the photo, and that's one of the things I've really come to learn is I didn't even see that when I took the photo at all, period. So
I didn't see it in most of my first photos the first year either. It wasn't until I started comparing them side by side that I started making that connection. That's, you know, that's why you're here. That's why you learn. You know, but it makes a huge difference to this side when you're able to see the line of the neck than even me turning this way if I have it. See how much of, like, the femininity that you lose just by having the hair, you know? And that's it. So, so that's why, like, if you do this again and you do a shot like this, I'm sure the girls love it. Like, little girls and their horses, absolutely, all the way. But I would just push all of her hair. I would have her pull it all to one side and then have her lay on it. That way you still keep the line of the neck. Other than that, I think it's a really beautiful photo. It's very soft light, which is always good. And she's a little bit uncomfortable right around the lips, like the corners of her mouth with the teeth. I would have. So the trick is that you have them part their lips just enough so that they're not touching, but not so that they're all teeth. Otherwise, they kind of start to look like a bunny rabbit or a squirrel. So a little bit less lip, I think, would have been helpful. I probably would have cloned out a little bit of the flyaway hairs just right in this little corner where her head meets the horse.
Okay.
Right up towards the top. But overall, I think it's a really beautiful photo. I'm going to give it a commendable. I think it's really, really good for where you are right now.
Thank you. That's better than what I thought you'd give me. Okay. One thing about the mouth didn't mention earlier was with the fog, we didn't have our son, which it was kind of chilly that morning, so she was actually shivering a little bit. So that would be some of the tension I think that you're seeing in the mouth as well. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. This is shot in New York. I did a series of photo shoots while I was up there on different dancers. Which I know that we've talked or you've seen. You know, I really love dancers, and I just have some access to some of them. And which, you know, as a photographer, if you shoot people, who doesn't like shooting dancers? They just have so much control over their body and their positioning, and they're very much aware of what looks good. So, having said that, we were doing an early morning shoot. We just were in Central Park and walked by this water fountain, and this was right at sunrise, with the joggers and what have you. From the original photo that I submitted to the cohort, I did a little editing and some cropping on some of the suggestions that they had, and it actually came up with the final image. And it was just kind of a spur of the moment thing. We were just walking, and we saw the water fountain, and it just. Ballerinas are crazy, right? They'll just stand and pose anywhere. And wasn't really much forethought. We just posed and shot. Couple of things that that I did change. I did change the crop, and I took out a couple of people jogging. You know, I tried to show. I was trying to show some of the people jogging around, but I guess some of the cohorts felt it was a little bit distracting. And then. Or just in the angle of where they were running, because they were running away. They weren't running towards the ballerina. And then you'll see in the picture some of the joggers that were further away, and it was suggested that maybe I should have waited for them to get closer before I took the shot. And again, I didn't even think about that. Other than that, what else could I? On the original crop, that was the main thing. To the left and the right, there was more of the image, and it didn't tell the story. And so I have been really trying to work on my story and my photos. So once I shoot them, so that it'll be more of a clear, precise story that's being portrayed. So I reduced the crop, took out a jogger that was running away, and a little reflection here and there of light and what have you, and that's where I ended up with it. Okay.
So I agree that the joggers are distracting, and I apologize because there's so many photos that I don't remember going over this one. But I do want you to know that your photos of the dancers are why I originally invited you to join. I think they're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think in this particular photograph, the fact that the only two joggers are about the size of a squirrel in the photo because of how far away they are distracting. So right. I would definitely take those two out that are in between the trees, and I would also take the street signs and the lamppost out. So then you kind of have this feel of Mother Nature versus the city in the background kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, and I saw that too. You know, and I went back and forth about that. Definitely the joggers. After I talked with the cohorts, I saw the ones that I left in, and they're dead center in the picture. And the first thing you go to is that. So I don't know. So I really left those in there. I wanted to see what you thought about it, and also the street sign, because I didn't actually think the street sign was that distracting, but the joggers for sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I do just because you have this very soft, like kind of monochromatic feel to the photo occurring naturally, and then you have this bright green. So that's what, and it's the only thing that has a really sharp edge too. Like it's very rectangular, where everything else kind of has this nature feel to it. So
right.
That would go for me. There's also something on the very right of the photo next to the last tree. That may be like a lamppost or a trash can or something that even with the shallow depth of field, my eye jumps and it leapfrogs. People sign that thing right through the tree. So I would get rid of all of those.
Okay.
I'm interested to know how much information you have that you cropped out of the left-hand side, because the eye reads left to right, because that's how we're taught to actually read. So I think that this photograph may actually be stronger if you had cropped it the other way and left the information on the left-hand side as opposed to the right, because you just want to go right past her to see what's beyond that, and there isn't anything interesting beyond that that should be the focus of the picture. It might work.
Say that again. So you're saying to the crop
So
on the
instead,
left.
you have almost 2/3 of the photo, a little more than half, that has no usable information behind her. So I'd be interested to see if we'd cropped it the other way so that the extra information was in front of her, leading up to her, visually crescendoing to the model.
Okay.
Which may work as well if you simply flipped the image, but I like the fact that she faces the left-hand side. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. As far as the model herself, obviously gorgeous dancer kind of body. I'd be interested to see if she did that exact pose, but switched her legs. Just because with it being the front one and the way that that puts the dress out, it makes her hips and the lower half of her look really wide because of the style of the dress.
You know, we did that. And the problem that I kept having with when she switched it around, just the dress was so short that.
So you were seeing up it.
Right.
Right. So some of that may have just been a change in angle where you moved a little bit so that instead of completely profile to her, that you were at a little bit more of a 45 so that you couldn't visually see that regardless of whether it was available or not.
Right. And that's, you know what, and I never even looked, the hip thing never even entered my mind, but you're right now that you brought that out because she's a very tiny girl. So yes. Okay.
Right. So, you know, in hindsight, it doesn't matter. The shoot is done, so this is what we have to work with. So I might go in and just liquefy just a little bit on the bottom of the dress just to give her a little bit more shape because it really kind of pouches out underneath because of gravity.
Right.
The other thing that you can do is you can sort of fake a little bit of see-throughness with a little bit of dodging and burning and follow where the line of her legs would have been so that it kind of silhouettes her body.
Right.
You know, so that you can follow the line of it. The other thing that I would have done, and I've been preaching this when I do videos and live shoots, you always, 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 always have them on their toes. You can get away with that sometimes with dancers if it's very obvious that it's in a dancer pose, but I would have really liked to have seen her just raise up on those toes with the foot that's flat on the ground because they do have such beautiful lines, and it's really shortening the length of her leg. Having her completely flat, especially because ballet shoes have no heel whatsoever. All that said, I think it's a really beautiful photograph, and I really love that you do not only portraits of dancers, but that you take them and you put them out in the real world around you. I love the juxtaposition of that. And she does look beautiful. The light's really pretty. It's a little bit hot on the trees behind her, which keeps the focus away from her. So I may have just dulled that down, and I would have liked to have seen it at a more shallow depth of field so that she was really the only thing tack sharp and everything else really kind of faded behind her. But I think it's really beautiful, and I think that this is one that as your Photoshop skills improve and you can add a little bit more artistic flair to the retouching and kind of find your voice post-process, that this would be a really good one to go back to a couple of times and just try different edits on it too, because I think that it has the foundation of being a really exceptional photo. We just didn't quite hit it on this one. So I'm going to give it a commendable. I do think it's a beautiful portrait. You didn't just quite cross that mark though.
Right. I agree. Okay.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
All right. This is still in New York. It's the same dancer, different day. We're close to the Brooklyn Bridge, and we were doing different things. I like the juxtaposition of the whole where we're at. You know, the bridge is so massive, and that was my first trip there. And we were just doing different things, and we walked across or next to the little binoculars that you pay and look for. I said, hey, this would be great. I love the leading lines, you know, with the bridge in the back and how massive it is, and the leading lines to the dancer, and they're looking, and you know, it just, for me, it just, I love the look of it, the feel of it. The guy dancer is he dances with an understudy in New York Ballet, and there's a little bit of strain on his neck holding the girl. I mean, I don't know. I noticed that when I was taking the picture, but I certainly didn't say anything. Other than that, I think he's doing a good job holding her. The challenges I had was the crop a little bit. I wasn't sure. Obviously, I want the focus to be about them, so I played around back and forth, trying to get what I thought was a good crop. I didn't really have. I didn't really do a lot of touch-up to this. I mean, the depth of field, all these things were. That's pretty much the way that you see them. Anything else like that's about it.
Okay. So this is another one that I would be interested to see if you added a little bit of information into the sky with the clouds, if that would really push it. Which will be a little bit of a feat because you have so much to work around with the lines of the bridge and the cables. One thing that jumps out at me is that you have this beautiful sloping line from the bridge, and it gets broken directly at the edge of the viewfinder by that other building. I would probably take the top of that building out, so that I could just be the continuation of that line, because you have all these lines and they're focused that way, and your eyes should just kind of flow right off the edge of the page, and it like hits the wall.
No, you're right. Right.
And it distracts a little bit from the viewfinder itself. It's competing with it right in, like everything's converging right in that spot. So,
right.
That being said, the only real critique that I have, I can see the strain in his neck, but he's also in a ballet pose and holding another person. So,
right.
So you kind of just got to work with that, but you can go in and soften the muscle tonality in Photoshop and just kind of clone and heel brush that, just at a lighter opacity, just to soften it a little bit. I would have maybe liquefied her leg that's bent just slightly, just because of the angle that he's holding her at and the angle that she has her knee bent at. It's making it wide and flattened, and it looks like he's actually balancing her a little bit on his knee, just to support the weight. So anytime that you have flesh that sits up against something, it widens it out wider than it is. And it looks out of place compared to her other leg that looks incredibly slender and is probably closer to accurate. Can you see the difference?
Absolutely.
Right. So I would have gone in and just very, very slightly slenderized that and pulled that in a little bit, just to make it a little bit more proportional. But overall, I think this is a stunning image. I love the story. I love the idea. I love their body language. I love that the line of her body parallels the line of the bridge, and that you can kind of just go right from the ground and just follow his leg all the way up to all the information and out to the side of the photograph. I think for where you are right now and the quality of your work, that this is an exceptional image.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to give you a 3 for this one. I would really love to see this one revisited and maybe retouched again.
I will.
But overall, I think this is one of the best that you've shared so far in the group.
Thank you. Thank you. I love this. I love the people too. These guys. I love taking pictures of people who are really good people and you enjoy being with. Right? That's. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
That makes it even that much better. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. And now number 4. Okay. Obviously, it's another dancer. You know. This was kind of a planned shot. I knew it was going to be at a ranch here in the Houston area, and we did some shoots around horses and blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But anyway, we were this stall door. It just hit me. I thought, oh, that'd be great if she just takes a pose and I just blow out the back. When I posted it for critiquing with my cohorts, one of the issues that came up was about the door. You know, so you have the black as we're looking as the picture on the left, and then you have the door on the right, which is a distraction. And I didn't see that at the time when I took the picture, and I went back and forth about even presenting it. And but then part of it, to me, tells the story. The story is that you can see the ground. The ground is, obviously rough, and so, and then with the bars on the right side, I went back and forth about that, because there's obviously those white lines that are running up and down, and which I think in some ways competes. So, um, in telling the story of the image, obviously it's about the ballerina, but then I thought, well, if I take out the white lines, well, then it kind of complements the door, or not complements, but it kind of works with the door to tell part of the image of what's happening there with the wall, the door, and the bars of the stall. So I went back and forth about what to do, not to do, and so I left it in there because I felt like it told part of the story of where she's at. And then, other than that, I did take out when she turned around to actually strike the pose. Her shoulders are dipped a little bit, and I do have another shot that they don't dip. And again, I went back and forth about liking the shoulders one down, one up. It was, for me, it was kind of half a dozen, one the other. It did create a little bit more symmetry, and that's something that Tom pointed out. And Tom, is very much into symmetry. All of his photos are aligned. They are everything's equal. I am not that way. I struggle with keeping things equal in symmetry and framing and straight lines, and my gosh, I mean, so he's definitely challenged. The more I see his work, it's challenging for me to create that perfect symmetry, and I don't know if I'll get there because of just my style, but so I went back and forth about that. I did, so I went with this image because to me it created a little bit more of a story of rather her being perfect, with this whole image not being perfect, with the door and the bars on the side of the stall and the wall. I did take out, she had some hair, a couple of locks of hair that had fallen down when she turned. I cloned that out so we could just only see her face. Other than that, that's what I did. So, okay, so fire away, Jessica.
Okay, so I don't think, and here's what I don't want you to do. I want you to take under advisement everything that your fellow apprentices and everything that I'm saying to you in critique, but I don't want you to try to mimic what they're doing because you think that they're right. Like, you start to lose your artistic voice that way, and you're right, Tom does these beautiful symmetrical images, and he understands how to create that, and that's a strength of his. But if it's not naturally the way you see, it won't be a strength of yours. It'll be a phase that you go through before you realize that that's not your voice, and all of those images will become obsolete in your portfolio. So stick to what you know. Now, that being said, as far as this image goes, you're nodding to the idea of symmetry, and that's why it's bothering people. So you have her legs perfectly positioned so that they look symmetrical. So you have this very triangular shape going on from her feet to her hips that leads to the idea that with the rectangular door that it should be a symmetrical image. And then you're losing that in her upper body, and you're losing that with the weight of the image all being on the right-hand side because there's information on the right and not on the left. So I think that you just kind of missed the mark here with what you were trying to accomplish in the composition of the photo. Either you have to add some information on the left to even it out, or you have to take that box out because it's competing with her. It's almost the same size, and every detail of it is sharp in focus, so it's fighting with her for the leading role of the image.
Right.
So, and I love the texture of the ground, and I love the texture of this old barn and the feeling that she's in there. I would probably take maybe the bars and the bottom of the wall and bring it over and flip it and see if I could add some faux elements into the left-hand side just to even it out.
Right.
Just to give information leading in on both sides. But I do think whatever that box is is distracting in this particular photo. Now, if you had changed her position entirely and maybe had her lean on the left side of the door frame, then that would have brought all the information over to that side and it would have evened itself out.
Right.
Okay, but with it the way that it is, I feel like if you're going to have the legs posed that way so strongly and so evenly, then you have to mimic that with the upper body as well.
I got it.
Okay. Yep. That said, I positively love the feeling and the emotion and the texture of this image that you got with the lighting quality. It's a beautiful shot. You kept all of the texture of the dress, which is awesome. I can see the details of her shoes. The only thing about her that's really bothering me is that because there's so much shadow on her face and her neck comparatively to the light in the air on the dress and the garment, is that you can't get enough information in her hair to see that it's hair, so it's making her neck look really thick because you can't tell where her neck ends and where the hair begins.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit of separation on her left arm too, between her left arm and the door, because she's got all of these long leading lines and dancer body, and then her arm's just kind of flat on the door. So if you had pulled the wrist away maybe, or just let her fingers touch, similar to the right-hand side, I think it would have been a little bit stronger. And I probably would have pulled that arm down further, because if you were going to make it not symmetrical, then it should be very obviously not symmetrical. So had that elbow come down and in, and that hand was almost at waist level, I think the pose would have worked. The problem is that everybody wants it to be symmetrical because it's so close to being symmetrical.
Right.
See? So,
yep.
But overall, I still think it's a really beautiful shot. It's got a lot of emotive qualities. I love that this photograph looks like what ballet dancing would look like if it was a photograph.
Thank you.
It's just got this very graceful, elegant kind of emotion to it that is really strong and is totally overpowering for me all of the flaws in any of the things that we're critiquing on. So I'm still going to give you an exceptional for this image, because I think for where your quality is in your portfolio, that this is a really strong image in your portfolio.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's actually, I thought you'd hit me with a 2 on that, so I'll take it and run all day long.
Good.
Awesome. Okay, last one. And I'm curious how you're going to hit me on this one, because there's things that I see that are wrong with it. That let me back up. When I say wrong, I mean we have rules in photography, whether it be the rules of thirds or hands and cropping, and sometimes you can break those rules and get away with it, and sometimes you can't. So, okay, so this is the same dancer. This is actually the reverse angle of where we were at. So we shot the picture of and blew out that you just saw.
Mm-hmm.
Came from the outside, and I love, she's just inside the light, and I love, it was a very soft light that was falling on her. So I asked Rachel just to stand there, and I just snapped a couple of shots. So what I love her eyes, and those are her natural eyes, and she's just and whenever I can capture the light in her eyes, I really love that. What I don't like, I like everything about the picture except for the things that I knew that were challenging. The hand, everybody goes back and forth about the claw and what have you, and I went back and forth about that. She's square on to the camera, and I think I got away with it because she's so tiny. Mm-hmm. And she's, but normally I don't have her square onto the camera. I think it'd been a little bit more interesting if I would have turned her and may have leaned into the door behind her or what have you. Some of the wisps of her hair that are shining through that green, I thought about toning them out, and I kind of went back and forth about toning them out and making it a little bit nicer. After the fact, I think I should have, at least on the top for sure. I did lighten up her hair just a little bit. I think as you're looking at the picture, just on the top, just a little bit, top left, but that would have been her right. But other than that, I got away with the fact that the bars just kind of like fade into the background, so they're not coming out of her head. The green behind her, I like that because it kind of adds depth to the image, because if it was just so black and it kind of fades away. So I don't know if you think that competes with her or not. I left it there because I thought it added a dimension to pop her out. Skin retouching. I did do a little skin retouching just lightly on this. I shot this with I think a 50 millimeter, I think is what I did. So I think it elongated her face just a little bit. But other than that, okay, so what do you think, Jessica?
Okay, so I agree with you completely. She's just gorgeous. She's just stunning to look at. Things that I noticed right away, her jaw line, and I think that this may be the angle, and it may be the lens that you were looking and the angle that you had the lens at. Her jawline is a little bit heavier on her left-hand side than her right-hand side. So she has this very slender feminine line that goes all the way up the right-hand side, but it looks a little bit more masculine and squared off. So I would have just very, very slightly liquefied that just to even it up and make it a little bit more symmetrical, because she almost looks like she's biting on her back teeth on her left-hand side. Like,
wow, I didn't even notice that. Okay.
And I also would have changed her position just a little. With the way that you have her right now, and I don't know, there isn't enough information to know what she's doing with her other hand or the rest of her body, but with her hand on her shoulder, if you're curling her in, then you curl both shoulders in two and then drop them so that, here, let me show you. If you're going to put her in and you're going to have the hand up here, then that immediately denotes that she's curling in whatever she's doing. So if you had brought the shoulders in a little bit, you would have gotten a little bit more accentuation on those lines. You have it good on the collarbones, but you missed the neck right here. So I would have changed her position a little bit to just accentuate and add to that. And depending on where she was in the doorway, would have added to that as well. Like you can see, like I have a window to my left. And depending on where I turn, depends on how much light there is on that. But that's another thing that denotes like a petite figure and slenderness. And it will also change the line of her neck because it comes out just a little bit wide down to her shoulder. And for her being so slender and having a dancer body, she's gaining a lot of width from the bottom of her chin to her shoulders. That said, her expression is flawless. It's just beautiful. Her eyes are piercing. I would have actually liked to have seen this just a little bit tighter even and come in a little bit closer. I do feel like the background is competing with her without adding anything to it. So beautiful bar, and I totally understand why you wanted to shoot her in it. And if this is like the next image in the series, then obviously that's what you were working with. But I probably would have taken her outside or put her against a wall that she didn't have to compete with all the geometry going on with the lines and things.
Right.
I think the texture from the wall with the peeling paint, which is awesome texture, and I would love to shoot against that, but I think it cuts her right at jawline, right below the ear, and it's just emerging into her head and blending with her hair, and it's also very sharp and in focus, so I don't think that it's adding enough to compete with it. And then the green is such a stark color contrast from the rest of the image that I feel like it's actually pulling away from the potency that her eyes and the color of them would have had if it wasn't there. So if it was me, honestly, I probably would have gone in, I would have taken out that entire window behind her, and I probably would have dodged and painted over the wall and just made it a black backdrop. That way you had the beautiful light, but she wasn't competing with the details behind her that honestly just don't deserve to be in the room with her right now.
Right, right.
Overall, though, it's still a really beautiful photo. I love that you have her hand in her hair. I'm a big fan of that. A lot of people not only do the claw hands, but they don't give the hands anything to do, so it looks fake and posed. If you just have someone like put their hand up, that's fake. That's posing. If you give them something to do with their hands, then it starts to tell the story, and that's exactly what she looks like right now. She looks like she's sitting and playing with her hair.
Right.
So it's believable. So I like that idea. It would have been really easy in that shot. You're so close. You lose a little bit of the fingers, so it has a little bit of the paw thing. Just adding a little bit of separation between the fingers helps.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks a little bit awkward. So if you have her do that, one, bring the thumb out so that it's a hand and not a paw. And then two, you just have her turn her hand.
Right.
See? So that's just different. People just tend to go like this, and then you're all palm, and that's what makes it look paw-like. And if you just turn the wrist, it looks a lot more feminine and gives it a lot more interest to play with. So I'm going to give you 2 for this one. I think it's commendable. I think it could use a little bit of work, but it's still a really beautiful photograph.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you're going to go and click off the screen share so I can see your face, and then we'll chat for a little.
Did I lose you?
No, not at all.
Okay, so hang on one second. Where do I go again? Where do I go?
So you'll go right back up where you clicked on the screen share originally, and you'll just click on the screen share button again, and that'll turn it off for you.
Okay, hang on. Why it's not coming up for some reason on my computer?
So you want to make sure that you're in the actual Google window, in our Hangout window.
Okay.
Nope, that's the wrong one. You're still in another screen. You have to be on the window that's yours and mine, our conversation window.
Okay, got it.
There you go. And then if you go over to the left, it'll bring it up.
Say that again?
If you go over to the left, it'll bring up the little icons on the left-hand side, and then you just click the screen share button again, and it'll turn it off.
Are we there?
There you go.
Okay.
Hey, technology.
Well, that was really good. You know, I took notes of everything that you were saying and scored.
Ooh, 5 points for note-taking.
Is that right? All right, I'll write that down. I need all my points. I'm low on points. See, and I really do have my notes. Okay, so that's actually better than what I thought it did. You know, I'm pretty consistent with the images as far as what you're grading me right now on the critiques. I mean, obviously you can see that it's the details, I think, that I struggle with. I see that overall. I think I have pretty good concepts. I'm way out here, but when it comes to honing in on the details, that's where I get lost, especially in a photo shoot when things are moving quick. I have a tendency to want to go more for quantity instead of quality, and I'm really trying to work on that to change that, so where I take time to get the pose, I take time to look at those little details of what we've just talked about before a shoot. So that being said,
so I want you to pay attention to the idea, and I want everybody else that's sitting in and watching, or that views this, to know that what is said in critique is something to help you grow, but that does not detract from the fact that if those 5 images were of the same dancer and they were images that you returned, that she would be very happy with all of those. You know, when you come into critique and when you're doing the levels before where the apprentices are doing it, they're tearing apart your work specifically to make it better, but that does not mean that it's not good, and clients do not view the work the same way photographers do, and we forget that a lot of time because we want to be better and we're working to improve, and that's, you know, part of the Arcanum and any other photography community. You know, that's part of the benefit of it. But I think we get so used to hearing feedback from those people that we forget the fact that they're really beautiful images. Like, you are turning people into works of art, and you're doing it one step beyond most other people, because you're turning artists in motion in other formats of expression into a
Hmm.
totally different genre of art. And that's a really beautiful, incredible thing. And I'm guessing that when she sees those images, that she positively loves them, because they're beautiful, and they make her look sensual and sexy and ballet-like, and they show off all of her talents. Like, those are really beautiful images. So don't let any of the things that I'm saying make you second guess yourself when you're actually on a shoot. The idea is to just take those notes and the things you're learning, so that hopefully the next time that you are there, you go, oh, fingers turned out. You know,
Right.
like, it's just
Right.
those little things so that you catch them before you
Right.
shutter fire.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. Uh, I will do that. I have a shoot coming up in the 14th of a young lady that is just getting into modeling. She's not a dancer, but so I'm excited because not only do I get to use, let me back up. Working with dancers, it's a little bit easier because they are very much aware of their hands. They spend a lifetime looking at themselves in mirrors. So
Yeah,
it's
you're cheating a little bit.
yes, yes, I'll take that right now. Especially compared to some of these other of our cohorts, man, these guys are awesome. And anyway, that's another story. But it is more challenging when I'm working with people who don't have that experience, and so that's why I really treasure the details of listening to different critiques and what have you, and today, because it's in the details that pushes the image further. So I'm good about that.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about why you joined the Arcanum. And you and I were actually connected before. You were following me on Facebook, which
Right.
is, you actually sent me a message and was like, hey, put me in your cohort, which I was like, yes, I will. Um, so
Well,
why the Arcanum, and what are you looking to do? Where are you going from here?
yes, and you know what, and I did, and I am so, I was really extremely honored, and that has not changed at all. Why I am here, um, I want to grow my artistry. I had been trying here locally to connect with some artists, um, and there's some really good photographers in the Houston area. And quite honestly, a lot of photographers are challenged to give away their information or to really teach because of for whatever reason it is. So, in order to grow my artistry, I have my vision, but I wanted to be able to hang out with people who were not afraid to say not only what they feel, but also to share their experiences and share their insight and not feel threatened. So, so I thought that it was a great opportunity to be able to grow in my artistry in my field in an environment that was strictly to grow. Um, and so that's why I joined. I knew what I wanted to be as far as my talents, dance, portraiture, and beauty. So connecting with you and knowing your ability to take an image and bring the passion out of and to tell a story, I just thought it was a perfect fit. So, so when we decided to partner together, you decided to partner with me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So that's why I joined the Arcanum. Um,
Okay.
my artistry, I have my Dougberry photography, but I actually started my own branding. It's called Hot Shoe Photo, HOTSHUFOTO. Um, I've listened to some of the other critiques and what you said about, whether it's going to be branding for me and my name. I decided to go like Moe's Studios. That's my branding, Hot Shoe Photo, and I think that's going to be my umbrella. I'm not concerned about necessarily. I don't care if people know who Doug Berry is, but I want them to know who Hot Shoe Photo is, and that's um, and I'm on the branding. I like the whole concept of down the road having this umbrella organization that would sponsor and do things. And I also like the anonymity that walks in. If I walk into a room and people don't know they know who Hot Shoe Photo is, but they don't know who Doug Berry is, I'm okay with that because that kind of brings guard down. They go, oh, what, you're the guy? And so I'm good with that. Um, in a year, I have my goals down. In the year, this next year, working here in the Arcanum, if you don't kick me out, uh,
I would never kick you out. You're one of my favorites.
uh, I am really working on my artistry and developing my style. I think that's one of the areas that I'm really challenged in is the style of photo, so that when people see my work, they go, okay, this is Doug, art. This is hot shoot photo. Um, and that's in my editing and my composition. So I'm really working on that to try to get my style. I don't think I have that yet. And you can kind of see my images. They're not really. I don't. You can't look at my work right now and say that. You just say, "Oh, this is a great image or a nice image or whatever." But whereas your work, people know you have a certain style, certain warmth to your photo, a certain way, and people. I can see your work. I can see like Craig's work. Most of it, I can tell his work. I don't have to have So that's what I'm really working on the next year. And then business-wise, my heart really is to take my skills and to work with women who have come through surgery and had breast reconstruction and feel very bad about themselves and what they've come through. They feel like they're scarred. Breast cancer, reconstruction is very dear to my family because we have a lot of, and my wife's side and my side, we have a lot of women who've gone through that, and I know what they feel. And so I really want to be able to partner with surgeons to work with women to offer my skills on a free basis to bring them in and work with the makeup artists and do photo shoots to help them regain their femininity, regain their beauty, and realize that yes, they may have scars, but these are not scars that are damaging. These are scars that tell a story, and I want to partner with them to tell that story and be able to do it on a level of an artistic level that just they can walk away and have their hearts renewed again of who they are as a female.
That is an excellent passion and purpose, and I fully support that. Are you looking to create art as an artist for the sake of creating art, or are you looking to do it as business?
Both. The surgeon working with surgeons and doing that thing is just strictly, it's not, that's just strictly for the humanity side of it and being able to reach out and to be a part and connect with people. But then let me back up. But the artistry part, I'm not into compositions. I don't really enjoy that. I just like capturing the moment. So the artistic part comes from like shooting friends and dancers and what have you, and working with that. That's where my actual artistic side gets satisfaction of composing the shoot, thinking about and setting up the with the dancers and then the editing, all that process. That's where the artistic side. I want to develop that more. Does that make sense?
Yes, but are you looking to do it as a professional where you are a photographer and nothing else, or is this just something that's in you for the sake of expression?
Well, I've gone back and forth because I listened to your other critiques and I knew you were going to ask me that question. I am two things. When it talk about my artistry, I struggle with whether I'm going to pursue it as art because here's what happens. If it happens naturally, I want my art, my work, my photography. If it creates art, if people look at it and want it and like it, I'm very much okay with that. That is not my goal. My goal is, as far as artistry, is to be able to take a wonderful picture where people enjoy that and they come around and they look at it and it touches their heart. If that creates an art that people are drawn to, I'm all for that. That's what I would love to have.
Well, everybody wants that, regardless of the ones that want to make a fuck ton of money doing it. So it really, like, in the simplest of terms, like, I think you're delving into something that a lot of artists struggle with, is that they feel like if they actually say, yes, I want to make a lot of money at my art, that's somehow selling out or undermines the fact or means that they're not committed to the artistic side of it, which is not true at all. So it's just, but for other people, they either have jobs that they already really love and that they make good money at, so they're not concerned with the financial side, or they just want to create when they feel like creating and when they're inspired, and they don't want to ever have pressure on them to create because that's just the kind of artist they
Right.
are and where their work is created. So,
And
you
that's
know,
the last two.
okay, so that's what I'm looking for, because
Yeah.
we're halfway through your first sphere. When we cross that threshold to level 10 and we're through the foundation levels and we start actually doing spheres of mastery,
Mm-hmm.
then the next 10 levels are all about getting you where you want to be, which I can't help you plot a course for unless I know what you're looking for. And it's not about just who you are as an artist. It's about this being able to support the kind of lifestyle that you want to have. So if you want to just create art when it moves you, and when you come across beautiful dancers, and when you are able to connect with these women and empower them, and it comes solely from a place of passion, and the rest of your life exists outside that, that's totally fine. And
Right.
if you want to be able to put 100% of your time and your energy into that artistry because you eat, sleep, and wake up photography every day, then we'll be building towards you being able to do that. And everything that you're talking about can be included in that. But it does still have to support your actual lifestyle and pay your bills. Otherwise, you'll be selling that camera gear to pay your mortgage, which we don't want. So it's more about just understanding, like, when I look forward into the future, what do I see my lifestyle being? And does that
Right.
include a career in photography, or is that something that I'm doing just for the sake of self-exploration and expression?
Well, it definitely includes having a career in photography. It's just I am very blessed that that is not something that I have to rely on income, and I am very thankful for that. So part of it is that I can develop my career, I can have my career, and know that I can choose a path that if it financially, if the rewards, I don't have that pressure to have to rely on that because that's not a necessity.
Okay, so
And
you're happy where you are right now.
well, when we're talking about monetary returns, yes.
Okay, that's good to know. Some people
Yes.
are and some people aren't.
Right.
And I feel like there's a lot of pressure that you're not a good artist if you're not doing it professionally. And I've met people that make no money whatsoever from their photography, and their work is better than 90% of the professionals that is their income, which
Right.
is really the only difference. Professional photographer means that you make your income from your craft. Amazing artist has nothing to do with the money.
Right.
But hopefully we coincide the two.
Right. And so anyway, I know we're close to our time. That's the fact that we're out of our time. But I think my challenge, not a challenge, but my desire is when it comes to my artistry, it comes to income, is just that. When I move forward and learning from this Arcanum and learning with my cohorts and working with you, I believe that as my skill develops, obviously, if the door opens up for income from my artistry, I would not turn that down. But that's not my driving force.
Good.
So.
Good. Well, then we're gonna end it on this note, because a lot of people are chasing profit,
Right.
and the secret is that profit chases passion.
Right.
Profit will
Right.
always chase passion, and it's so funny because the people that go, no, I don't. I mean, that's great. If you want to give me money, absolutely. I'm not going to say no, but I just love what I do, and I want to create these beautiful images, and that
Right.
inspires me, and that moves me, and that is my purpose in life, and this is what I want to do in the world, and what I want to leave behind for other people. The people that do that are so focused on that artistry and what's inside them and what they have to share, that they end up creating work that people can't stop looking at. And when they can't stop looking at it, that's when they start going,
Right.
oh, I just love that image of the
Right.
ballet dancer in the red dress looking through the thing. I need to have that on my wall. Can I
Right.
can I get a print done? And then
Right.
all of a sudden you go, well, I'm just doing this for the passion. And they're going, what? I can't hear you over all those stacks of hundreds piled up in front of you. Can you say that
Right.
again?
Right.
So, and meanwhile, the other people that are going, I want to make
Right.
this my career, and they're chasing the money, are struggling to keep up, because what you
Right.
chase will give chase. So
Right.
I
Right.
think that you're going to find that while you pursue passion, you're going to start tripping over money that's coming in, because your talent is good. It's really, really good. Your eye is there. I can't see it in your style. I can't pull it out, but I can totally see consistency in your images with how you see things. especially with the dancers. I think that's really potent, and I see that as a very strong avenue for you to build on. And
Good.
again, it's a niche market that nobody is competing with you.
Right, right, right.
You know, so
awesome. Thank you so much. I'll take that and run with it.
So your homework for the day, your personal assignment, is to sit down, and I want you to write out a sort of self-assessment artist statement on who you are as an artist that captures dancers, and who you are as a humanitarian artist and what you want to do. And I want you to get personal with this. You said that, you know, this is close to your heart because of your family. That is what the driving force is behind it. So I want you to sit, and you don't have to write it. You can sit and do a video chat with yourself or a recording or something and send it to me. But I want you to really get in touch with where the drive is behind that and where that's rooted from, because that is going to become the center that everything else is going to grow from there. And that emotional connection will start to show up in your images, and that is when you move people.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Awesome. I'll do
well
it.
Done. Go add your points from critique, and welcome to level 5.
Thank you. All right. You have a great day. All right. Bye.